Have you ever been stuck in a metaphorical avalanche where things just keep piling up one after another, after another, after another? Today I'm going to talk about the things I dealt with in a very short amount of time while dealing with anxiety and depression. So this is pretty much episode 3 of the little series I'm doing about my life, and it's on the avalanche, and it kind of starts off where my last video kind of ended. So going through the second divorce, at that time my best friend, my grandmother, was not doing so well and was starting to have memory issues, and a family member reached out to me and said, you know, hey, why don't you sell your house since you work from home and move in over there and help take care of her. That way you can be there, to help take care of her and do anything she needs done around the house, stuff like that. And I didn't really want to sell my house. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't doing good, but I wasn't at a point where I was completely going to lose it yet. But so I discussed that with him, and there was promises that were made to me or told to me that would happen. Those, of course, didn't happen. And as this series goes along, we'll talk more on that. But so I'm dealing with anxiety, depression, having problems driving. So I'm gonna put my house up for sale. So I need to get all my, get everything out of it. That way, easier to list, and then I don't have to rush to move out. And I'm moving everything by myself at nighttime. One, because it was really hot, but that was the safest I felt driving because there was less people on the road. So I'm moving out of my own house by myself with my truck, with a bad back, constant pain, mental illness, and then I don't know what we call it on here. I know you can't call it what it is. So the unthinkable happens, and we'll say it's the beginning of the world shutting down type thing, or at least the U.S. shutting down. So I'm trying to move. I'm going through that. It's hard to get gas and stuff like that because places are closing early, and I'm doing this at night. And but eventually I move in there and start taking care of my grandmother. So went through a divorce, then straight into moving out of my house that I loved, to the world's stopping. So yeah, I'm back. I'm back there and taking care of my grandmother, and things were really good. I'm not gonna say they're great because nobody at that age wants to be, say, living back home where you grew up, but never trade that time that I had. It was one of the hardest things I ever did. To see her go through what she did at the end. And I beat myself up for a long time. I blame myself for that. And not to get too far into it, she, her memory was going, and I brought up to, when we would go to the doctor, I think she's, possibly has dementia and all that, and they said, no, it doesn't seem like it's that. But then one day she was out doing yard work, which she wasn't doing it because I wasn't doing my part. This is her, even at her age, she ran circles around anybody I knew. She was upset when she had to leave her job, but we had to have that happen because she was getting lost and she didn't want anybody driving her and stuff like that. So she was just, she was crouched down, just pulling weeds like she always did. She always would literally go take a walk around the neighborhood and stuff like that, and then she'd come back and she'd sit and pull some weeds in the yard, and she just kind of tipped back, and she bruised her, we'll say her like hip and butt bone or whatever. And I guess it was bad enough that they wanted her on bed rest, and it seemed like the minute she stopped moving, like it accelerated so fast. And it was so hard to watch. I could deal with talking about the same story 7 different times in a 1 hour period because she couldn't remember, or same thing every day. But seeing her go downhill so fast, it was killing me inside. But they, her insurance had it to where she, had, I don't know exactly what, home care, I would guess it would be called. Nurse would come in and help with certain things, and, I guess we'll say towards the end, she, it was getting real bad, and with having to help her, like there was things I noticed with the stuff I was doing, and I would bring it up to them, and this is where I say I blame myself. And I said, I think she has, a UTI or whatever. And they would do it, they would take a sample and test it and say, no, it's not that, no, it's not that. And we went through this multiple times, and it was to the point where, like, I'm not a smart guy, I went to high school, but like, you could tell that it just wasn't right, without getting into too much information, it just, and I beat myself up for the longest time for not just driving down there and like, God, I just wanted to like kick in the door and like make somebody listen. And the crazy part is that, from what I was told anyways, that was what it was. And by the time she got put into hospice, it was too late. So I lost a family, lost a house, the world's in chaos, and I lose my best friend. And on top of blaming yourself, like, I could have done more. And I still feel that. It doesn't matter how many times anybody says that, like, it wasn't your fault, you still feel that way. And then after that, you know, in this time too, for those that saw the last video, my mom still, it was my grandmother and my mom lived there. And, but in that time, you know, things were said that we weren't going to have to worry about moving out, nothing like that. And then that changed, and that's fine. But then it was all put on my shoulders to decide, which I wasn't in the right mental state for. Like, how do you throw away memories? Like, what do you keep? What do you get rid of? You know, there's so many little things, like, especially when it's, you know, my grandparents weren't people that just bought stuff to buy it. Like, it was just like, it's little silly things that you just can't get rid of it, because it's been a part of your entire life. And having to make those choices because my mom didn't want to, and my uncle didn't, said he couldn't come, he couldn't do it, he couldn't come and help. And it, I think that was the hardest for me, and going through all that, and it just made my anxiety and my depression just worse. But the hardest part was losing my best friend, and especially seeing her go downhill the way she did so fast. She was such a strong woman. Tiny little woman, but so strong. And just seeing her that way, it was horrible. So that definitely didn't help my headspace. And you try to bury things, and you know, eventually it all comes out. And that's what that first video was because of, was I couldn't take it anymore. Like, all these things have piled up for all those years. It's just like, what's the point anymore? And then you look at the world, and it's like all that's around you, all that's on TV, all that's being pushed to any type of media source is all fear and negativity. And like, I couldn't tell you the last time I've seen something positive come from a news channel. But we'll continue this on. Oh geez, what would the next, I don't even know what the next video would be. I'll try to, if I think of what it will be, I'll toss it down in the description. But it just thinking of my grandma right now. So anybody that's out there, you know, you hear me say it, if you've watched my videos each time, you need an ear, you need a shoulder, you just need an avenue to vent, you can toss it in the comments below. You can reach out on Facebook or Instagram. Those links are available. But yeah, if any of you ever experienced your own avalanche, or your own, just one after another, after another, after another, you know, toss something down below. Say, been there, done that. Let me know you're out there, and let's Let's build this community and be there for each other, and start spreading some positivity in this world, because it definitely needs it. Hope everybody's doing well. I wish you all the best. Love you and God bless.